So, Art, how cold has it been out there?
Dude, it's been freaking hot. I've gotten a tan. I landed with
Unexpected
Island,
twist.
right? Went to Salt Lake City, ended up in a freaking pool outside. No, I came here with 6 jackets. It was snowing in Chicago. Came here with 6 jackets, all on top of another to get into the airport. I have been using the thinnest field jacket possible. There was a blizzard in the middle of it. It got things cold. But literally this morning, there were kids outside skateboarding in shorts.
Oh, lucky.
So,
Last year was much colder,
last
I
year
think,
was
right?
freezing cold. But since then, global warming became a thing. Just
Right.
started in 2017.
We didn't know about it.
We didn't know.
Knew
no one
about it.
told us.
I wish somebody would tell us
It's
about
ridiculous.
it. All right. So let's get into our Sundance edition of Yay or Nay. The Sundance Awards came out earlier today, the day we're recording, Sunday, and there's a lot of really exciting stuff to talk about. A lot of movies that I know Art managed to see. I don't know if it was just some sneaky maneuvering or if you had a little insight
No,
into
dude.
what would get these awards.
I knew everything that was going to win, man. I'm manipulating the system. I came last year. They said, what could we do different? I said, have these movies. They won because I'm the one who got them in the festival to begin with. They don't care
You got all
about
the
me.
insider
No, they don't
connections
care
now.
about
You go to
me.
one press screening and it's...
Yeah, they're listening to me while I'm giving them thousands of dollars on merchandise and tickets. No, I tried to say I try to watch as much as I can. I like watching all the ones in the narrative competition. I try to watch anything that hasn't secured a release date because I don't know when I'm going to be able to see it or when it's going to be released.
Exactly.
So just try to catch as many as you can, and eventually, one of them's bound to win something, and hopefully it's your favorite.
So the big prize of Sundance Awards, the U.S. Dramatic Competition Grand Jury Prize, was awarded to The Miseducation of
Which is
Cameron Post.
fantastic.
This is a movie coming out with Chloe Grace Moretz, written and directed by Desiree Arcavin. Art, I know we talked about it a little bit before the fest, but yay or nay, was this a worthy winner of the Grand Jury Prize?
Bro, it is in my top 10. It's actually my top 5. I think I have it at number 5. I don't care about numbers. My 6, right? If I'm talking about like the movies in particular that have all just blended together in their greatness. There's 6 movies that I just can't wait to see again, can't wait to buy, can't wait to recommend, can't wait to just experience it with others. The Miseducation of Cameron Post is one of those. It is... The festival awards have been a bit weird in where, like, in the recent years, they haven't really blown up as much. There's controversy with Birth of a Nation.
Right.
But before that, a lot of the times it's like Whiplash. Whiplash is one of my favorite movies. And there was this trend going on
Right.
with the audience and the jury one being, like, the same movie, and then it, like, trickling and picking up.
Me and Earl and a Dying Girl.
Exactly.
Is another one.
So this past year, which last year was my first Sundance Film Festival, what won was I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore,
Yeah.
which not only went nowhere on Netflix because it just got dumped there and like very few people saw it. I personally didn't even think it was like incredible. So if we're talking like for me in terms of the quality
Right.
between the other movies, it's sort of like I'm expecting this quality. Okay, I'm expecting. Okay, wow, you guys are always bring. The heck is this, right? Now I
Right.
did like Crown Heights,
Blip on
which
the
won
radar.
the audience award. And I haven't seen the audience award for this one, which I know we'll get to in a bit. But I'm not saying that it takes away from it. But what I'm saying is that Cameron Post, I think, makes up for the slump from last year. And I really hope, I don't know who picked it up, but whoever picked it up, the biggest thing is distribution and who you can get to see these movies. Again, it is in my top 6. This year is a bit different from last year, and where it's the movies that last year was more like these crazy big hits. Here it's more about these very, very, very solid movies, and there was a lot more of those than there being one clear front runner. And The Miseducation of Cameron Post is one that you have to check out. I'm forgetting her name, and she even liked my tweet about it.
Desiree Arcavin.
No. The actress who was also in
American Honey, Sasha Lane.
She needs to be in more things. I now see what y'all were talking about
Awesome.
in American Honey, and I'm like, okay, American Honey's a good movie. She's going with her thing. I couldn't tell how much of it was just, the improvisation that you just had to do. Bro, she is good. She needs
Right.
to be in more things. Her banter's fantastic, especially with Chloe Grace Moretz. The directing is great. The kid from Super Dark Times is in this, and he has the best scene in the movie, in my opinion.
Ooh. Awesome.
Yo, we were talking as well earlier about going into movies where the director didn't really impress you with the previous one.
Right. I was a bigger fan of Appropriate Behavior
Than I
than
was,
you
yeah.
were, but I think we both thought it was kind of okay. I think I had hopes that her next movie would be better.
That's exactly what you kept telling me. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go into it completely. You know, it's a brand new movie. Let's see what they have to offer. Went from okay to excellent. This is a fantastic movie. And a lot of people I already know are wondering, is this just winning because it's gay? Is this just winning because it's covering this? It's about, it takes place in 1993 for a group of teenagers who are all sent to gay conversion therapy camp. And, oh man, I know that there's going to be, I personally think it handles both sides. Obviously, they're favoring one side, but they look at both sides.
Yeah,
in
I mean,
certain, I think that you can sit several people down to watch this movie, and some people are going to see one thing and some people are going to see another thing, and I think that's a good thing. But like all the movies, distribution is going to be the biggest part of it. I don't know who picked it up, but depending on how they distribute it, that's going to be the biggest deal when it comes to it. Because this movie is funny. This movie has heart. This movie has a lot of the drama parts all just completely down to a T. But the biggest issue is going to be like, are you going to be able to get the right audience to see it? Are they going to play off the fact that it's like kind of looking down at this church practice and noticing that, they may not have been the best things? That was a point that I was going to get to, of how even if you're super religious or you're like the gayest person ever, I'm pretty sure both sides can see that this just didn't work. You know what I mean? This thing that was happening in the 90s just didn't work. And that's what the movie's covering. It's not saying don't believe in Jesus. It's just saying don't hate somebody to the point that you're causing them to hate themselves, and it can push them to do something that they shouldn't and hurt themselves even more because you're telling them that they're not worthy of it. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it blows up.
Yeah, and that sounds like a good message for a movie like that, too. So I know one movie that you haven't had a chance to see yet, although I know you're trying to see it tomorrow, is the winner for the Audience Award, Burden. So, Art, what have you been hearing about Burden at the festival?
Burden, I've heard, since I haven't seen it, is that the best part about it is the performances. And a lot of people saying that it's very heavy-handed on a certain side. I won't know until I see it tomorrow, but that's what I've heard. A lot of people praising the performances rather than that. And the other people saying that the reason it won the Audience Award is because it plucked at something that caused people to go like, this is what I need to vote for. When I personally think that other winners did it a lot better. Again, I haven't seen Burden yet, but it is one of those cases this year where a lot of it, and I get it, it makes sense, and I'm okay with it when they're good movies. But it was funny hearing some people come out. There's like this white older dude. What have you seen? Well, I've been trying to see the most non-offensive movies, and there's like 5 of them at this festival.
Yeah, there is that thing of the Audience Award winner sometimes going to a movie that's maybe a little bit more manipulative and broad.
I'm not saying it is.
You haven't seen Burden. We're not talking about Burden. We're talking about generally what happens to... I mean, I remember being at TIFF one year when The Imitation Game was the Audience Award winner. And, that's just not really a movie that I think is a good example of the quality of films that come through a festival like Toronto, but it is a movie that has that kind of very emotional ending that kind of is rousing in a way and makes you feel like you're watching something important. And you can imagine if you're in the audience and you're the first person to see this movie, you want to vote with your audience ballot and give it that 5 out of 5. A lot of people sometimes, I think, at these festivals get swept up in the moment and want to make a statement with the movies they see.
Fever Fest, what we were talking about earlier, whether you see a movie and you're like, oh, you're so into it. A bunch of the midnight movies that we saw, you could tell the people were just so excited, either because they were completely drunk or it was midnight, whatever it was. They were yelling at just scene location changes. Whoa, we're in a room now. They just go completely crazy. So, I mean, I don't know. I'll see it tomorrow. Maybe it ends up becoming my favorite. Yeah. I don't know.
The award for directing went to another movie that I know you haven't seen. It went to Sarah Colangelo for The Kindergarten Teacher. Now, you did see the movie that this one is based on. It's based on a 2014 Israeli film also called The Kindergarten Teacher. What's the buzz been like on The Kindergarten Teacher?
Everybody keeps saying that her performance is fantastic, which is the reason why you watch a remake to begin with, to see what it adds to it. Obviously, it's in English. It's going to be more digestible for a lot of people. I didn't see it mainly because I knew the story and I wanted to catch new things that I haven't seen the story of. So main buzz has been the acting. I'm surprised with the amount of buzz she got, why she didn't win actress. Or I think they just do actor, right? For Sundance, it's not actor, actress, it's just
Yeah,
actor.
they do like one acting award, and it didn't go to her.
Okay, yeah. So I guess it wasn't that much for the jury to vote her in, but that's the main thing that I've heard from it.
The screenwriting award went to Christina Cho. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. For Nancy. No, you saw this one, but
Absolutely
you are not
No.
as big of a fan of Nancy.
Bro, I'm gonna name you like 5 movies. I think these awards are only for the ones in the competition, right?
Yes.
Like for the narrative, dramatic
Yes.
competition. First of all, Monsters and Men, better. Sorry to bother you.
So
better.
let me.
Sorry to
I
bother
can interrupt
you. It's
you and say
freaking
that
insane.
The Outstanding First Feature Award did go to Ronaldo Marcus Green for Monsters of Men and Men.
That man deserves everything. I'm gonna get to
Okay.
him. He's dope. 8th grade. I would give it to the dialogue in 8th grade. There's a specific scene that to me calls back to Michael Stolberg's scene
Interesting.
in Call Me by Your Name. With the same type of emotion of a father to their child. Again, like I said, Cameron Post dialogue in there. I know not everyone likes Blind Spotting. That was like probably the ones where people came out going, what the heck? And other people were like, yeah. Sorry to Bother You was also very much like that as well. But I thought that was at least way more innovative. Nancy is more in the performances than it is in the script, in my
Right.
opinion. And if you've seen The Imposter, you've seen a much better real-life version of Nancy anyway. So, I don't know.
So yeah, you think it would have been better off going to Bo Burnham for 8th grade, maybe?
1,000%. The way Bo Burnham wrote 8th grade, the way that Cameron Post was written, heck, the way the tale was written. Honestly, the way the tale was written, I would love to see how that script was made just because of the way that it's narratively told, where she's not having flashbacks, she's arguing with her flashbacks.
Interesting.
Right? So, exactly. So, I don't get how Nancy gets it, and not something that's innovative like that. Not something like Sorry to Bother You, which is completely bonkers. Okay, maybe not Sorry to Bother You because of how crazy it gets at the end, but Monsters and Men, to me, is structured very much like the story of Fathers and Sons, Ryan Gosling, Bradley Cooper, Place Beyond the Pines, Place Between the Pines,
Place Beyond the Pines.
Pines Between the Place Beyond the Pines. To me, it's a lot
Interesting.
like that, in where it's each story happens due to
Like a
because of the other
generational
one,
kind of.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see what Nancy has to do. I didn't hate Nancy. I don't want to say that. It's one of those scenarios where
Just
it's sort of like,
not
I want
necessarily
to hate on
special
you.
enough for that prize.
Exactly. Especially when other ones outdid themselves in my
Yeah,
opinion.
screenwriting in particular, you think it
whatever.
maybe would go to something that's a little more inventive than what I've been hearing about Nancy. But
Yeah, well,
you,
good for them. They want it. They want
you
it.
seem like nay on the screenwriting decision for Nancy, but a big yay on Outstanding First Feature going to Monsters and Men.
My man. When we got waitlisted for Monsters and Men, right? And I'll say this. I apologize because there was Monsters and Men and Monster. It's like the same synopsis, like I said. They're at a bodega. They see a cop shoot a black dude. I was like, is this the same movie? I wanted to see Monster, which is actually based off of a book, but I had never read the book. Mainly because that one starred A$AP Rocky and Nas. And they got Nas acting like freaking Red from Shawshank Redemption. Nas plays the old black wise man at the prison who's got to help this kid out. And that was the original one that I wanted to see. I did not care for that one at all. I feel like the problem with that one, in my opinion, is that it works better as a book. Because the book, I believe, seeing from the movie, is supposed to be written as a script. Because the kid is a filmmaker who then gets stuck in the situation. So he's always saying, like, external. Courtroom.
Yeah.
Right? So seeing that in the movie, it's sort of like, yeah, I know, we're watching it. I can see that we're outside and when we're in the interior. Excuse me. Monsters and Men, the one I almost skipped, ended up becoming top 5 movies for me at Sundance. I was riding with it. Then the man comes out and he talks, and the movie was like here. The moment he talked about it, it went through the roof. When we were in the waitlist line, which if you don't know, at Sundance, you have your super, super rich people or your press who just walk in with a badge, the people who have bought their tickets and are waiting in line, and then the people who are waitlisted and they're just waiting to get in. You know, they got their little number that they did on the online wait list, and they're just hoping to get in if they can find seats. Well, we're one of those people, and we're waiting there at 8 o'clock in the morning, right? We're super tired because last night, the night before that, we saw a midnight screening to Blind Spotting. Ends up ending up like at 2, right? The director was at the screening of Blind Spotting.
Oh, nice.
Because he really wanted to watch that movie. He watched it, stayed up late, knowing that he still needed to be there in the morning. And again, doesn't need to be there because you go to some screenings and they're like, yeah, the people aren't here. Are they not at Park City? No, they're at Park City. They're probably just like hungover. This dude watched Blind Spotting to go support the movie, then woke up in the morning again to come to his movie, but went into the waitlist line to let everybody know that he was going to make sure they got in to see the movie.
Awesome. I mean, that... Now,
I'm
look, I want to say, like, that
it.
sounds like an awesome experience that has no effect on what I'm going to experience when I watch the movie, what's going to be like when I sit down and watch Monsters and Men.
Bro, so the movie starts off, you're following Philippe from Hamilton, and then you're following a black cop who's dealing with the repercussions of what happened in the first arc, and then the last arc is about a kid and what he's going to decide to do, knowing that he can either protest with them or not. And the way they handle some subjects had me second-guessing stuff. Like, my idea of how to solve some things, the movie has a bunch of scenes where it's two people on two different ideologies, right? Was that cop right or was that cop wrong? And they go at it. And usually, right, there's a bias, right? You're watching the movie and you're going, clearly you're making the one person on whatever side you don't agree with act really dumb. Bro, both sides are stacked to the point that the scene just has to end with one of them walking away. Exactly. It comes out later. There's a scene between a father and a son, and the father and the son are arguing, don't protest because you're going to ruin your college chances. Trust me. Things will change in the future, but son, I want you to make it. And the son's going, but I don't want to grow up and not have done anything. So now you're sitting there going, damn, what do you choose? Because you can see both sides. And the director comes on, he just starts talking about how he just wanted to start a discussion, and he starts a discussion with this movie. He starts a discussion with this movie a lot better than, forget this year, previous years have tried to cover with it. I think it does it better than Fruitvale Station. I think it does it better than, again, I made a video about how a movie can draw a better discussion than arguing with someone who you're just saying, I don't agree with you. But in a movie, you're seeing that police officer's life. You're seeing the man who got shot and the people in his neighborhood and how they live their lives. You're seeing both sides of the stories play out. And I think the 3-act structure was fantastic in the way that they were all connected, showing you that one incident isn't isolated. It ripples down. And then him coming out and saying, he's like, I disagree with a lot of people. I had him in the movie. like the police officers who he said inspired conversations. Police officers, I think he said his dad was a police officer growing up. A bunch of the people who you would think he was just going to speak negative of were not just influenced, but in the movie itself. And I think it's one of the best movies at Sundance. Really happy he got it. He's a dope dude. He's awesome. I want to see more stuff from him.
Awesome. So the only other major award that went to a movie I know you haven't seen yet is the Special Jury Prize going to I Think We're Alone Now. What do you think about that? What have you been hearing about it? I'm pretty sure you said that you're trying to see that one tomorrow.
Tomorrow as well, yeah, they have it playing. All I heard was it looks good. I don't like when people cryptically don't give something, like you can see someone going, 8th grade really got to the heart of what it was to really be an 8th grader, and Bo Burnham and the way that he really just tells the story and strips it down to its core and start naming you scenes and start telling you the emotions, and they start like releasing their own 8th grade pictures. Then they get to this one, they're like, the cinematography was spectacular, very pleasing to look at, and I'm like, y'all don't want to talk about story?
Yeah, that's it?
You don't want to talk about this? Yeah. And then you'll get the other people who are honest and they're like, nah, it was straight up boring. Yeah. Cinematography's good. And I'm saying cinematography's good. So I'm not surprised at all that it won cinematography because supposedly it's fantastic. If I am not mistaken, it was a female cinematographer?
I'm not sure about that.
I could be wrong.
Potentially, yeah.
But that is the one thing that I heard over and over again, that it looks great. Obviously, I was excited. The name is based off of a song that always reminds me of 10 Cloverfield Lane because that was the last time I heard it. Peter Dinklage. Elle Fanning, I think, isn't it as well? And it's like a post-apocalyptic movie. I want to see that, and then they're like, no, literally, that's just they just chill. I'll see it tomorrow. I'll see how it is, and hopefully it looks as great as the award says it's supposed to.
Yeah, and by the time this podcast is posted, Art will have posted his thoughts on the ATZ show's Twitter as well as his letterbox. So check the description down below for links to both of those. Make sure to check out his thoughts and like them, retweet them. You can hear more about all of his thoughts on all the Sundance movies there. Let's get on with the awards. Achievement in acting went to Benjamin Dickey in the movie that I know you just saw, Blaze. How do you feel about that prize going to Benjamin Dickey?
I'm trying to look at the other ones because I just saw it fresh off. And at first when it started, I was like, all right, this dude is just... The character of Blaze is one of those dudes who like speaks in quotes. So when you're playing a character like that, it feels like an impression almost. But that's just the way the guy talks. Like, he speaks in quotes. He says, like, you know, the night is darkest when this happens. You know, confidence is like life. And life is like confidence. Like, he just says things like that. So you're like, okay, is this just like a cheesy performance or is this the character? I think it deserves it. It was actually pretty good. You got to think of the fact that the people who voted him are actors. So they would know what to look for. In my opinion.
Is it a bit more of a subtle performance than I think we sometimes see getting awarded with acting awards?
So you're seeing him, like, I want to say in a 5-ish, maybe 10-ish year span.
Oh, interesting.
So you start noticing little things. And it was like by the beginning of the third act, I was like, all right, I see why he won it. He's able to transform from this guy who mumbles parables to just straight up mumbling nonsense. And the way he's able to deliver it, I think, I would see, to me, I would have given it to probably Laura Dern.
For the tale.
But I think the amount of coverage that he does on just this one man's life, the physicality of it. At a certain point, I couldn't take him super seriously because he kind of looked like Post Malone. He has like Post Malone's like scruffy hair. But I do think he deserves it. There's a physicalness to it because the character has a limp. There's the way that he talks, and once you get used to the fact that it's like, oh, okay, this is like the character. Right. This is literally how he speaks. It's not like a person making an impression, trying to be like, oh, you're here now? Like trying to sound like an old blues singer. I think he did a fantastic job.
So I know that your favorite movie of Sundance so far also picked up award. It is the Next Audience Award. That went to Search. You want to tell us a little bit about Search, Art?
Look, I tell this people, I say this all the time. A lot of people like to say, no, you're just on the hype train. You're just on this. I'm like, look, Hereditary, I think it's fantastic. I will keep talking about it, but I didn't say it was my favorite. Right? I went to go see Sorry to Bother You. Blew me. I want to see Sorry to Bother You again so bad because of how, maybe we'll talk after the show.
You sent me a GIF after it. I got word of how good it was.
I know you don't mind spoilers. I ain't ruined anything for any of you because I don't know what can be in the trailer. It's so insane. But I ain't post anything. I saw Cameron post, speaking of, and I didn't say anything until I'm sitting there at Search. And the first 5 minutes go on. And I kid you not, it is the equivalent to Up. When everyone's always talking about, the visuals in Up are so great because without words, the first 5-10 minutes give you this whole story of happiness to sadness. This movie does that in the first 5 to 10 minutes. It's all told on a computer screen. I've heard people say that it's gimmicks. They're lying, thieving adulterers at heart who love gimmicks in other movies. I think because Unfriended took place on a computer screen,
it's not going to be the first time that a movie has done this, but it seems like a unique take on it.
Yeah. It's like people are saying it's like, oh, I hope this gimmick goes away, just like the found footage gimmick went away. And I'm like, but there were some good found footage movies as well. If you're not willing to, you don't have to like found footage. I understand that. But to say that automatically, anything found footage cannot be good, then I feel like you're saying the same thing again. Some people have said, take away the gimmick of the thing, and no one would care about this movie. Would you I was thinking of the story and some similar ones, and how those have gone in pretty far. I'm not going to spoil anything that happens in the movie, but I'm like, what are you talking about? Take that out. You still got a pretty solid story. Heck, a miniseries, if anything, as well, I would say. The way it's told allows it, like I said, instead of it being a miniseries, to be this short thing, because the computer screen allows you to have notes and messages that you look through to be able to get a quick recap of things. I think it's edited to perfection. Though saying it's not cinematic, it definitely is cinematic. The camera within itself is still on the computer screen, but it still finds a way to, like when they're doing a FaceTime call, to zoom in on the FaceTime call, to go out. Like, it
There's
takes
still
its
cinematic
liberties.
decisions
Does
being
some
made.
things... 1000%. Are there still a couple dumb things? Yes, no doubt. There are things where you're like, why is this computer not closed? Why would he still be on here? Yes. But when someone does something so well, those end up just becoming little minor things. I will mention them most definitely, but if that's what's going to like kill it for you and you're going to ignore all this other incredible stuff they keep talking about, I like going into a movie and, you know, you're always hearing about the producer, the actors, the way that everyone, like the director and the producers, have all given the credit to the editors and how much work. I don't know. To me, it's like it shows it in the movie, like how much effort they put into making it all make sense. Because I'm looking at my computer screen right now with, you know, you're on it, all my files, Audition, you know, the Google Hangout, all these things, and it's like it can get cluttering. So for them to have been able to make sure that it all makes sense, it's fantastic. I think there's a nostalgia to it, going back to the Windows 95 that they freaking opened at the beginning of this movie, to your emails, to your parents snooping around. It's great. It's my favorite of the year.
I'm really excited for it. And John Cho finding his way into some really interesting indie films in the last couple years. Lastly, the next Innovator Award. It was split between two movies. I don't think you saw Night Comes On, but
Cheating.
I know you saw...
No, I didn't see that one, yeah.
We the Animals. I saw a lot of stuff on Twitter praising We the Animals, talking about it maybe being this year's Moonlight. Art, can you tell me a little bit about it?
Bro, there's some movies you go into in the next category. And the next category to me literally just means... this idea is so crazy we can't put it in the narrative. This movie does things differently. I won't say weird. It does things differently that people are not going to be used to. There was a lot of ones that came up. Madeline's Madeline. A lot of critics really, really like. They've already said that it's going to be their favorite movie of the year. For me, We the Animals not only embraced me in its differenceness in telling the story and how visual it was.
Right.
A lot of people have compared it to the Florida Project and Moonlight. A lot of, you know, it's like, you really got to compare things. You should. It's not bad. Because what you're saying is that Moonlight and the Florida Project have set the bar for that type of storytelling. And in my opinion, it's better than the Florida Project. I'm not going to say it's better than Moonlight, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you like the Florida Project, there's absolutely no way you don't love We the Animals.
Interesting.
This thing just... I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it. I know it's not going to be for everyone because it's not one of those beginning, middle, end with a plot and a climax. They are there. There's always there. When people say, oh, the movie has no story, there is a story. Florida Project has no story. It is. It's about a little girl walking around. Yeah, but when I say story, I mean explosions. Yeah, no. That's not
right.
there. But there is a story where you're following this individual. And for this one, it's a little boy. He's one of 3 siblings. You saw Atypical?
Yes.
You know the bartender in Atypical?
I did.
Who's also in Easy?
Yeah.
That man's going places. He's the dad in this movie. That man, I was watching him. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'm talking about him. That guy. He is in this. This dude is going to be the next, I said Luis Guzman. Because I really like Luis Guzman, but I know you're going to be like, Luis Guzman? How dare you offend him? All right. I mean, he's the next big Hispanic character actor, akin to your boy who was just in Rogue One, who's in the Heineken commercial, and everybody thinks that he's freaking Antonio Banderas. Now I'm blinking on his name. Benicio del Toro. This man is going to be the next Benicio. I'm telling you this right now. Seeing him in Atypical, I'm like, this dude's got a presence. Like in Atypical, I thought he had a big presence. Like that dude wasn't just a bartender. He got those big old gritty teeth. And Easy, completely different side. A vulnerable side to him.
Yeah.
In this one, his best performance to date that I've seen him in. Like by far, because this is a movie. This man is the kids, the visuals, the transitions that are done through paper. I think it's based off a book. I haven't read the book. It is. There's not talking really in this movie of like two. I mean, there's dialogue, but it's in how the kid writes his journals. It's the way the kid looks at things.
Wow.
What the camera decides to point at. I don't want to be cheesy and say it's magical, but it's one of those movies where if you give into it, it gives you back. The director has said, I hope this movie means something special to you. I hope this movie means something to you because it means everything to me. And I was like, all right, let's check this bad boy out. And it's just like, yeah, he gives it his all. Just like the Florida Project, just like Moonlight, right? But in my opinion, there's just something about this movie that worked a lot more. And I think it was the subtlety. Imagine the first part of Moonlight for an entire feature film.
Awesome.
Him not growing up. I don't mean to... Again, I'm not saying that it's better than Moonlight.
Yeah,
I'm saying it's better than the Florida Project.
Just for descriptive clarity.
But he had mentioned, and I haven't read the book, but he had mentioned that the book ends with him being 18. Not in, his childlike stage. Because at 18, then they were able to show him mature... into his sexuality, I'll say. And they said 18 was the best way to show that, right? Because it was more of a legal thing. And he's like, no, that's like in the last 2 chapters. If I show that, then you have a disconnect. And I was like, you may be onto something here. Because I know one of the very few complaints for those who didn't like Moonlight is that you get attached to one kid, then it's a completely different actor, then a completely different actor. And I liked what he was saying. Again, not bashing Moonlight, but that idea of keeping one character and following the whole journey through the one actor. Right. And I think that's what really helped it out. Not just jumping forward in time and it's like, oh, okay. I mean, I get that that's the same guy. But, as an audience member, you're going to be like, but he looks a little bit different. He doesn't look as adorable as Little did. This guy's a little bit more fierce, right? Yeah. No, seeing just a kid and come into his maturity, the way that the story is told, like I said, I think I was surprised. When I had asked on Twitter, I said, yo, what should I watch? A lot of people said We the Animals. And I was like, all right, let's go see this. And I know some people are going to find it boring. I know to some people it's not going to work. That's why it's in the next category. But for me, it did. And I'm glad I saw it.
Awesome. So those are the major Sundance Awards that we went through. A lot of those are movies that Art has seen. But I know that you had some other favorites. You mentioned briefly that you are a fan of Bo Burnham's directorial debut, 8th Grade.
I am.
You mentioned that you thought Sorry to Bother You was like no movie you had seen.
Bro, yeah. It's not. Trust me. It's not.
Only way to describe it. A lot of people were also talking about Hereditary, the latest horror pickup by A24, the studio that's also put out movies like It Comes at Night and The Witch. Very divisive horror movies. Art, this was a big hot topic on Sundance Twitter. What did you think of Hereditary?
It's not divisive like the other two. This is hands down the best one that they have released. There's no doubt about it. It's, I believe, getting released in June. It's got everything that you need. It's a fantastic horror movie, not with jump scares, but it's got the thing that freaks me out the most. You're looking at the screen, and the shot doesn't change. You just freaking notice something, and why it's so scary is because it was in front of you the whole time. Jump scares are lame. They're literally lame. It's just like someone appears when it's like physically not impossible to not have seen the person standing right here. It's like, what the heck? How can you not see the person standing right there? And then it's not even scary. That's why they got to amp up the volume to like scare you. This don't do that. It doesn't do that. The scary parts have nothing to, like, it's actually quiet when you end up yelling. What it is that like you're seeing somebody and all of a sudden you notice that there's someone like in the corner of the room that's been there the whole time, and you just go, what the heck? For those of you who saw it and noticed the librarian like in the background, but they don't make notice of it, and that makes it scarier because you're like, but why aren't you mentioning that? That type of scariness. In the Insidious movies, when they were still being directed by the master himself, and they would just walk by and the little boy was just hanging there. That's what we're talking about for 2 full hours in this movie. There's a thing that happens 20 minutes into this film that you're just like, what the heck? Did I just see that? It takes place on the road. You will know what I'm talking about when I see it. I don't know if that's how they're going to want to sell this movie or not. But you see that and you go, okay, that's it right there. That's what everyone's going to be talking about. By the time the movie ends, 4 other huge things have happened. that you're just like, wait a minute, but that first insane thing blew our minds. And I don't mean like just plenty of great things that happen. I'm talking about there are 4 specific shots in this movie. Usually a movie tries so hard to have the one. This one gives it to you at 15 minutes and then goes, yeah, but we got 3 more to give you. Oof. I'm not kidding with you. We're talking like, I thought for a fact that first one was going to be like all the movie had in it. And it said, nah, boy, you don't even know. It goes crazy. This thing is straight up satanic. So watch it with a pastor, watch it with your youth group, whatever you need to watch it with. It is one that you actually want to see with a group. It is one that, in my opinion, I think is even going to get some attention down the line because this is some of the best horror performances you have ever seen. It is so scary, it's funny.
A lot of people have been talking about Toni Collette's performance being like the best horror
1000%.
Performance since maybe like the Babadook or something.
It is up there with that performance from the Babadook. And I know a lot of people are going to be sleeping on him, but this movie would be nothing without, I want to say it's Alex Wolff. They put this kid through hell and back. It is insane. I'm talking about not just like a scream queen, like, he's got to yell. I'm talking about like they freak him the heck out. He has to like have this like trauma thing that he's got to do. And then the camera just sits on him as he shakes for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, what did y'all do to this man? First of all, previously he had just played the one of the terrorists in the Boston bombing movie. Patriots Day.
Yeah.
Right? And now that he's doing this, and I was like, this, unlike his brother, this kid's choosing the darkest things to go in through. He's going to get way too scarred. So those 2 performances are insane. And Dowd.
Ooh.
It's really good in this movie. I'm not going to say why. It is a movie that I think everyone should have on their radar. It is fantastic. It is insane. Pick up on all the little details that you have on there and take a bath or get baptized the moment that ending happens because it is utterly ungodly.
I'm excited for that one. It's been getting such cool reviews. That definitely seems like every horror nerd is going to want to put that one on their radar.
Yes.
So I know a couple other movies that you liked. Do you want to talk about The Tale at all? You mentioned that Laura Dern potentially was one of your favorite acting performances this year at Sundance.
I think she was fantastic in the movie. I think the narrative, the way that they tell the story is fantastic, and the way that she's trying to re-look at her past, and it's based off like a bunch of little stories that she wrote, and she's a documentarian. But instead of just like showing you a flashback, she'll show you a flashback and then be like, but that's not how I remembered it. So then they swap out the actress to then be like, I thought she was a redhead. It turns out she wasn't a redhead. She was blonde. So then they re-show you the scenes with the blonde and stuff. It's cool. Like, I really like that aspect of it. Then the movie goes to a place. We just talked about Hereditary. But this is not as bad as the crazy things that happen in Hereditary. Or this, I mean, this is worse than the crazy things that happen in Hereditary. And it's real. Like
it's not played for horror, I'm assuming.
It's not played for horror, yet it's way more horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And some movies insinuate it. They show it. Obviously, it's movie magic.
Right.
But some people don't know movie magic. And this is that movie that you never want to see again.
Oof.
It's like the Detroit. It's the 12 Years a Slave of this specific subject. You watch it, you go, okay, and you never want to see it again. And while some may disagree about how they show some things, it's one of those things where it's just like, well, Passion of the Christ, they needed to whip them that hard in order to get to the point of that, right? In 12 Years a Slave, the whippings had to be that hard to get to the point of it, and you have to show it. Same thing with Detroit and the harassment in that movie. With a bunch of these movies that you don't want to see again, certain directors go, we need to show it to you in order for you to get the gravitas of the situation. They showed it to you in this movie. I'm glad HBO picked it up. I don't know if they're going to do a theatrical run with this, but the best place to see it is at home, in the shower, to just wash that away from you because it's disgusting at points. But it's impacting, very impacting, and that's why I'm surprised Laura Dern didn't get it with the arc that she goes through in the story.
I'm really looking forward to her performance. She's had like a real great run
Yeah.
in the last year
The
or so.
Dernissance that's happening?
The
Yeah.
Dernissance. Full-on Dernissance. And I wouldn't let you get through the segment without telling me a little bit about Nick Cage and chainsaws in Mandy.
Listen, I know all of y'all excited for Nick Cage and chainsaws. The worst part of this movie is when Nick Cage doesn't show up. It's like a 2-hour movie. He's in it a bit in the beginning, but the first hour, my man's absent. And is it until, as you know, and the poster shows you, he's out for his revenge, for his wife. And this is a very psychedelic movie. The closest I would say it's, imagine a very Nick Cage campy movie, right? But
I'm imagining.
but Ben Wheatley directed it.
Right.
And it's Nicholas Woodard reference cinematographer. And they all did shrooms before the movie. It's based off of a book, and you can follow along with the book when they give these freaking 10-page monologues to the screen while they have like 5 effects on the screen. I was not the biggest fan of that. Some people may really like it. What everyone is going there to watch, and I will tell you it does 1000% deliver, is the Nick Cage isness that happens. There are some fantastic lines dealing with his shirt, dealing with a bathroom scene with one of the best freakouts. What I think happened in this movie is that they approached him to play a different character who was supposed to be weird, and Nick Cage said, nah, I don't want that. So then they're like, okay, we have a very serious movie here, and we can make that, or we can completely ruin the vision of this movie and get Nick Cage to then make it something. And they went with Nick Cage. There's 2 movies happening here. There's this trippy, like, cultish, like, crazy horror movie going on. Then there's Nick Cage doing his straight-to-Netflix zaniness. And they clash
the
together.
Scenery, I'm crazy, nuts, Nick Cage,
He's
yelling
chewing
at
like
the bees.
barbed wires in this movie, but it is fantastic. My favorite scene is the T-shirt scene. He gets mad because someone ripped his T-shirt, and the way he reacts to that. There was like guys like midnight guys standing up, just clapping like crazy.
Oh man!
So, yeah.
I'm very excited to see that one.